Oh, all right, we're going live here. So, we're missing somebody as we go live, and that would be Vivian, and she's on her way. I see we have a couple people have come in. Yeah, so Vivian has been at her Krav Maga class. Hello, Colin, how you doing? And I'm going to entertain you guys for a while. I know most of you are probably here to, hey, Santiago, to see Vivian and myself, but as I said, for those of you, there's a lot of people just joining right now, and Viv is running late in traffic. She does Krav Maga. This is a type of Israeli special forces martial arts, part of what we train for to make sure that we're okay in some of the places that we're at. And so she's at class and she's going to be here. I mean, she's probably minutes away. She wasn't too sure if she would be able to get here on time. But we're going to start walking you through some of the things, and I'm going to lean forward. Hello, Jennifer from Georgia. Vivian, I was saying, is just about on her way here. She's been at Krav Maga class, Israeli Special Forces type of training that we do. And she'll be here soon. So I will probably sit here and just entertain you. Uh, so, Celtic Shadow says Viv's the real muscle of the crew. Probably the brains and a little of the brawn, but I tend to do all the heavy lifting. I'm not sure why, but she's actually pretty strong and pretty accomplished. It's 1:30 a.m. here in the UK, says Matt, but wouldn't miss the crew. Well, appreciate that, Matt. It looks like a lot of people are starting, not a lot, but a few people are starting to join in, and there should be more over time. And we'll start actually talking about film production and what we do out there. But while Viv isn't here, what questions do you have about her that she actually can't defend herself on while I answer them? And for those of you just joining, Viv isn't here for the moment. She'll be here in a few minutes. She's at the Krav Maga class. It's an Israeli martial arts that we train in so we can protect ourselves in strange places. And she's running late in traffic on a Friday night. She'll be here in a few minutes. It's an interesting thing as we wait for Viv to talk about is being in these areas where we film. Most of the time they're pretty safe, but safe areas can go wrong pretty quickly, and it just has to be something you don't anticipate, something that it happens because of some individual's behavior. Usually, it's usually not a conspiracy. It's usually an individual to individual that causes something bad to happen in one of these remote film locations, and you have to be observant. We're always trying to be observant of our surroundings in these areas where we work and make sure that safety is the first priority. A lot of people ask what we're afraid of out there. Are we afraid of the parasites or like lions and tigers and sharks or whatever it happens to be we're encountering? This thing that scares me the most are human beings. Human beings are the most unpredictable. They're the most lethal and the most dangerous. So the reason I'm telling you guys about this, what I think is the scariest thing out there, is as I mentioned, for those of you just joining, Viv is at Krav Maga class, and she'll be here in a few minutes. But we train to deal with situations. Now I've trained most of my life for this sort of thing. Viv is starting to pick that type of training up right now, and she's getting pretty good at it. She usually goes to class, comes back to the office, has me choke her out, and then she escapes and pretends to stab me or with my own knife or something like that. We really do that. That's not a joke. Because we don't take where we're at as a joke. Now, we often have really excellent handlers who help us deal with us, but as I was saying earlier, it just takes one bad individual to create something that's very difficult. So with that in mind, what kind of any resistance do you encounter in these conflict areas? Just a second here. I couldn't read the whole thing, so I'm gonna log on here to be able to catch up with your guys' questions right now and answer them. Viv will be here in a minute to man this computer so that I can see the questions right now. But I'll answer. There's a few questions I'll answer as we wait for Viv to come in. So I hope you don't mind me looking away. But I think the question was something along the lines of what are what kind of situations we come into. Most of the situations we come into are perceived situations, meaning that they don't actually occur, and they might not occur. We might not know that they're going to occur, meaning there's no finish to them. We'll come into a situation that seems threatening while we're out there. We'll come into a situation that is perceived to be dangerous to our situation or what we're doing. But we take action pretty fast. Usually the action is to evade and avoid, and that's what we do. For the few people that are coming on right now, excuse me, I'll continue answering that question, but Viv is going to join us here in a few minutes. She's delayed from her Krav Maga class. That is, who's this? Stefan Papawell. Please say hello to me. Well, hello, Stefan. So Viv's she'll just be here in a few minutes from her Krav Maga class. It's an Israeli Special Forces type of training that we do to avoid close interactions with people we don't want. Anyways, going back to answering the question, evade and avoid is what we do. Run away is my first response. I mean, the last thing that I want to do in a situation in another country is engage anybody. There's no need to be a hero. There's no need to win anything. The need is to run away, be safe, and continue your work or go home. So it's much different for us than you might think. We've come up against somebody. In the Fiji Islands, I came up against a guy wielding a machete once. There were several people with us. Luckily, we had more machetes than he did, and he backed down and went away. And I think we've come up against a couple threats in some city areas where people are just being rather aggressive. But and then out there in some military areas, there are some threats in the region, in the area. You can look at the crew episodes in Belize where we, came across and found out that there were mercenaries coming over the top of our region, and the Belize Defense Force nicely came out to get us. But that's the thing I guess I'm trying to stress is when you come into these situations out here in these different countries, if you just be evasive and avoid them, you get out of it, and you don't have to sit here, and I don't have to be on YouTube telling you about some conflict we got in and we had to get out of. That's pretty rare, mostly because you get away. So I hope I answered your question. Again, for those that are coming on, Viv is out there in traffic, and she's about to come back. Somebody asked, does Viv have a boyfriend? I'll let you answer. I'll let her answer that when she gets back. I'll speak for her on stuff that has to do with both of us. But I don't think that I'm going to speak for her on anything that's personal, because I don't know what she wants to answer personally. So she'll answer personal questions, and I'll answer questions about us, and we'll operate in that manner if you guys don't mind. Viv should be here in a minute. Oh, she's here now to answer all those personal questions about herself. She's just come in. I've told them where you've been, Viv. With
cool.
Krav Maga. I've had a few questions I'm trying to catch up on. But,
hey guys, my sincerest apologies for being late. Although I'm being a big ad for Krav Maga Seattle right now.
Oh, somebody wants to know what I'm drinking.
Oh.
Well,
do you want to grab the...
Yeah, I'm drinking something rather special. It is Friday night here, And a buddy of mine, Chris Radcliffe, he actually liked that we were going to talk tonight. I hope he chimes in later this evening. He may or may not, but I saw him, and so I thought, because he was digging what we're doing today here on YouTube, that I would have this bourbon that Chris brought back to me. We, let's see, Chris and I, in what episodes were we?
You'll have to go back to the Alaskan episodes. It's probably like 5 or 4, maybe episode 4. Really early episode. This is why we number our episodes, by the way.
Which we should remember what those are. But early on in the episodes, Chris and I spent some time in Alaska on the top of a mountain, and we were stalked by wolves, and we froze our butts off, and we really bonded up there. And he bought me some bourbon he wanted to give to me. This is what, 2 years ago?
I'm trying to figure out the YouTube.
It's about 2 years ago. And
yeah, it would be about 2 years ago now, I reckon.
Yeah, and so we just met up in Wyoming, the project that Viv and I were just working on, and Chris happened to be out there, and he bought me he brought me this Kentucky bourbon, and here, I'll grab it right here. It's pretty amazing stuff, and it is Blanton's Kentucky Bourbon. This was a gift from another photographer.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you are a bourbon fan.
Or if you're from Kentucky.
Or if you're from Kentucky.
But I had never heard of this before. It's quite amazing. And anyways, one of the photogs, he got this for me as a gift. And so anyways, I thought that I would have a little bit while we had a chat here on Friday night. So that's the answer to that question.
You've obviously been chatting for a bit. I don't want to run over what you have talked about.
You know, I haven't talked about much except for that you've been in Krav Maga class. And I told them why we train for this kind of combat, and somebody had asked, had we been in any issues? And
I've been held at gunpoint twice.
Yeah,
and I don't want it to happen again.
But I told them our policy is evade and
yeah, I got a long way to go before I actually engage. I'm still relying on the runaway tactic or step behind Eric tactic. But I've started to realize...
That's our grizzly bear tactic.
Here you go. Meet my colleague Eric. But, I guess, for me, I don't know, man, what if you're not around that day? What if you, I don't know, had too much of that to drink?
But avoid and evade is what we do. That's what we practice. Run away.
Please don't engage.
You get back, you get to fight another day.
Yeah.
So that's about all we talked about, and then somebody asked if you had a boyfriend. And I said I was going to let you answer personal questions, as I don't feel that's my place. Yeah, I don't have a boyfriend, in case you were wondering.
I don't currently right now because I don't know, I blame it on the fact that I'm not in one place.
Plus, can you imagine trying to date her with me around? That's an issue.
So should we quickly say hello to everybody who's here?
Yeah, let's do.
Colin, Santiago. The reason we're doing this is for Santiago's question, which we'll get to.
Oh, that's right. Santiago asked the question
Celtic
about
Shadow 75, Hodgepodge, an early fan. Hello, Jennifer Birch.
We're looking down at the laptop at all your questions.
Matt Ward from the UK, coming in at 1:30 in the morning, so thank you for staying up. He says he wouldn't miss the crew live for the world. We love you guys. We love all of our super fans out there. Chinese guy, I'm sorry I can't read Mandarin, or gal. So I think you know who you are. Thank you for joining us.
That's what I was trying to answer, I think.
Oh, okay. Stephen Popplewell, sorry. Betty's here, Colin, and I think that's better, but Florida Scott.
And so what are some of these questions? A lot of questions about liquor.
Well, there was a resistance. Celtic Shadow did ask, so with that in mind, if any resistance do you encounter in areas of conflict?
Yeah, I've answered that.
Okay.
Yeah, so what do we got here? And we're gonna get into talking about and if we're not getting to the information you want. I mean, we're here to talk about how to get started in adventure film, what adventure film is like, what it's like to do what we do, how do you get started.
I feel like we should answer that now.
We'll start getting into that after we look at these few questions.
Oh, you want to go through this?
But
okay.
Prompt us on what you want to know.
I'm just going to do a quick scan. So you answered the combat question.
Yeah. I said hi to Stefan.
You said cool.
Viv has a boyfriend, we answered that.
Yep. Thank you for that answer. Betty's just made it. What are you drinking? You've answered that. You're gonna beat us all up. I don't know. My hand's pretty destroyed. I'm not gonna do
Yeah,
much.
look at that. That's from punching.
I gotta get wraps on my hand. Thanks for going live. Nice distraction from the hurricane. Yes, anybody, let us know if you're in hurricane-affected areas or in the path of a hurricane.
Well, not that we're going to do a lot, but...
Sorry we can't do much, but we're thinking of you, and we would love to know what's going on down there.
Stay on the high ground.
Especially if you can give us something that CNN can't give us. If there's any interesting stories. What else?
Well, why don't we jump into...
Should we get into it? Because I think that's about it.
Yeah. All right. What do we got? Well, we got a few. Talk about camera gear.
What are you going to defend yourself against Viv? It's a long-term goal. Mostly it's just fitness right now. Chinese person is translated to... Oh, we have a Chinese speaker amongst
Mandarin.
us. Mandarin speaker.
Yeah, where is that? Oh, UK.
UK live person.
No. Awesome.
What has been your most... Oh, Matt's got a question from the UK. Considering he's awake, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, what is it? Where is it at?
What has been your most memorable experiences on your travels?
Oh, the most memorable experience in these travels, boy, I just boom right off the top of my head. It was when we were standing there off the African coast, and we were imagining in our heads the ships going by during sunset with Simon and those guys. I don't know, for some reason that always pops into my head. I think it's because we took a moment in the busyness of our work, and we stood there during that sunset and just imagined what this coastline on the Indian Ocean off Africa would look like. So a bit of a history.
I think that's in an episode. You can jump back to see that. I think there's a beautiful sunset there. So it was epic. Everything went gold.
Sunset's cliche, I know, but
this was an epic one. It made all the water turn gold. It was like pools of golden water.
And you just imagine the ships going around the Horn of Africa and just going along that coastline, and that's, I think, probably in general the most exciting moments are standing in history.
Yeah, you certainly enjoy that. I mean, I do as well. You kind of vocalize it.
Yeah, I might enjoy it more.
How
about you? What's your...
Well, I was gonna. We might have to share a few questions, otherwise we'll never get through them. So we've got another one. This is from Santiago. When you travel to remote places, how many people besides you two get to go? We kind of are the point people in terms of, like, you see us a lot in all the videos, because we are the founders of the company. You did found it a little earlier than this, but in terms of from the crew, it's us running it, but we do have a huge crew, which is why we call it the crew, that join us. And they come in and out, and you would have seen them if you're a long-term crew follower. You would have started to see our people. So recently we've had Brian join us on about 3 jobs. Alyssa, who's been in Alaska and in China.
Chris Fenton out of the UK.
Yep. So they're camera and producer people. We also bring in mountain safety people, which you would have seen, like JD, when we go into...
Yeah, JD's got a drinking record in China coming up in one of the crew chats.
Yep.
In next week, I think.
Obviously, there's all the athletes that we work with. Sometimes they travel with us, particularly if we're doing a smaller project like the fastest known time on Uju Peak. Those athletes were with us. They were acclimatizing with us. They were climbing with us.
And we're always developing new crews. I mean, as Viv said, that's the point of calling it the crew. It's not Eric and Viv. I mean, the company is one I opened, but it's the crew. It's our extended network and people all around the world. And we're adding some new people here soon that we're going to be working with in Nepal, and some great people we met over in Jackson Hole.
As you stay with us, you'll start to see a lot of crossover. So you would have already seen, like I said, Brian was in Alaska and Alyssa, and they've both come and worked with us in China, and then you'll see people that we work with in China will work with us in our upcoming projects in Nepal. So it becomes this big kind of like a crew that kind of keeps coming together in our projects.
Big international crew. And what is really nice about that is you can't be good at everything. So we bring in some people who are fantastic at what they do, and they really augment our abilities as a crew, as a company, and that's kind of part of what we wanted to talk about today is how do you do this sort of thing. And I think this is a great segue into your network. You meet people.
Let me Santiago's original question. I took a screen grab of it. But
Oh, you need,
see my phone just
Yeah.
there? Yeah. We're totally prepared for this.
we are prepared for this.
Hey man, it was a Mariners game on, which totally tripped things out. Alright, Santiago asked this 2 weeks ago and he's been patiently waiting. He says, I really enjoy what you guys do, exploring and filming around the world. Me and my brother would love to do what you guys do for a living. I'm actually studying media production because of this. We've been wanting to ask for a while. How did you guys start? How did you get into this line of work? Any tips for helping us get started or getting a partnership with somebody?
Which part? That's a big question.
Which
Which
is-
we'll answer all of it.
Which is why we wanted to do it live, because we thought some other people might enjoy it, and also it saved me typing it out.
I think start with like why are we here?
Do you want to give a quick intro to how you got into film, and then I'll do a quick
I
intro?
mean, I got into film. Prior to film, I loved telling stories. I was the guy who was telling stories and about all the stuff. I did a lot of adventurous stuff. I was an adventure racer. One of the things we filmed. I told stories, and as my outdoor adventure career as an athlete matured, I found that we came into a region of time where we had to sell ourselves, and I thought the best way to sell ourselves was through stories. So I picked up a camera, a cheap, I think like $300 camera. So it was like 20 years ago, and started filming myself and the other athletes around me, and I kept doing it every day. Kept filming every day, and I didn't do a lot with it. I did some edits, but eventually it turned into a skill like anything else that you were mentioning earlier today. Like anything else, if you do it every single day, a little bit, eventually you become quite good at it. And I turned around one day, and I was one of the few people, me and a few other people that I could find, this was about 10 years ago, that were doing outdoor adventure film in the way I was doing it. That means embedding themselves way out into the middle of nowhere with people. No one was doing that because the technology wasn't there like it is today. And that's where I started, and it's continued from there. I've gone to television, to film, to what we do now.
And I guess one of the reasons why we start with the origin stories is because they're vastly different. As you just heard, Eric started, I guess you could say,
self-taught.
Just self-taught. Just went out there and started doing it, which is a totally legitimate way of doing it. Unless, I don't know, if you're a surgeon, I wouldn't recommend become a doctor that way.
I taught myself how to do sutures.
On yourself.
On myself, on my own.
I think my point is...
So I'm a self-taught surgeon, to a degree.
Anyway, but then, I guess from my perspective is... my story is I started at film school. I was very interested in film at high school, joined whatever film and drama clubs that there were available, and then looked for degrees. It was basically, for me, it was just how do I keep getting involved in film, and so for me I went and did a Bachelor of Digital Media, all of which is out of date right now. No one edits on Final Cut 7 anymore. The cameras we learnt on, no one edits on. Oh, thank you. And, but, you know, and then that kind of, I ended up doing a massive amount of film education. I studied overseas in Paris and came back. And as a result, for me, that gave me a huge network of people. As Eric said, you can find networks anyway, and as long as you just keep working them and pushing them, you can find networks. And from those networks, I then developed my first jobs, and then that kind of kept spiraling. The common thread is just keep doing stuff. Even though film school's great because it gets you making stuff, particularly if you pick a practical course or degree. But on top of that, you still have to keep doing it. Film class and the teachers won't care about your career as much as you will. So I went out and made short films, put them into festivals, put them into competitions, made family videos, which hopefully will never see the light of day. But it's just this constant practice.
I think one of the things that is striking a chord that I'm seeing is that, Viv said she went to university and then she went out and she had to keep going and develop her career. I made my career up out of whole cloth and continued on. And a couple of things I'll say on that. Going to university for Vivian created a network of people. The university is about meeting people. I went to university, I have a degree where I feel I came out of there meeting people. When I went into film, I didn't know anybody in that industry. So I started meeting people and talking with people. And so I think the overarching theme in doing anything, and especially in this industry, is you need to meet people. You need to learn from them. You need to collaborate with them, because there's a reason. I'm a 47-year-old guy with a family. She's a single 27-year-old gal. This is a odd combination.
But it's not the oddest combination you'll meet in film or any creative, industry. If it's music, or if it's fashion, if it's just painting and drawing. I mean, I've touched in a lot of those industries as a result.
But what happens here is she has a skill set and I have a skill set. And when we add these together, it doesn't double. It triples and quadruples. And that is the beauty of meeting people. You don't just meet somebody and, okay, you guys have skills that help each other out. Those skills are multiplied. And I think that and never stopping is the key to success.
I like to think of it, because we've made a few notes here to touch on a few things, and one of them was, I guess, contacts and networking. You have to maintain them like you would any friendship or relationship. You make sure that you're reaching out to people, sending update emails. As an Australian and anyone that understands that culture, it's a little hard to send an email that updates people and say, hey, this is what I'm up to, because it feels really egocentric. But coming and living in America and experiencing this culture here, it's actually perceived as, I'm interested in your life and I'd like you to update me. I'd like you to tell me what's going on. So take a little pride in your work, take forward leadership, and update people like you would update a friend on what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, if you meet me in person, I tell you about what we do, like within the first 5 minutes, because that's what I'm about. That's my life. And I want to know if I can be a help to you, you can be a resource to me, and if we can do something, might not even be in film, but we can do something amazing together. And I think that's what it's all about. And I think it's super important to be able, one of the things, I have 2 daughters. One of the things I teach my daughters is I don't care what you learn, if it's film or if it's science or engineering, whatever it happens to be, you need to be able to speak well and articulate your ideas. If you cannot articulate your ideas, if you cannot express them to other people, what you want to do, what your goals are, what your visions are. A friend of ours, Noah, says, dream out loud. You have to dream out loud. It reinforces your dreams and it lets other people know what you're about and what you want to do. And you'll be surprised how many people jump in and want to build your goals with you, because it helps them.
To hit on, just to kind of keep moving through some of our points here so that we guys can give you some good tips and you guys can ask us some questions. We've talked about networking, collaboration, and contacts. A few technical things. People often ask us about cameras and what cameras and what to do. Our answer right now is the best camera is the camera in your hand. And there's a reason we say this, is because there's so much amazing technology out there, and it ranges, and it's designed to range depending on what you need it for. If you're a time-lapse photographer, if you're an action photographer, if you're a studio, depending on what your budget is. So what we recommend is you do take some time to research, what's available, and find out, what the different cameras can do and what you need it for. But overall, honestly, if it's in your hand and it records video, it's going to be super powerful, because that's what you're going to, if it's your iPhone out of your pocket, then a story captured is way better than having a 5K red camera that was too heavy and you couldn't get it out in time, you don't know how to use it, and you missed a golden opportunity. So as your skill set gets better, you might start enjoying getting into different cameras, but in terms of starting and getting involved, just start with our camera and figure out, just be comfortable using that and have it ready.
I think an iPhone is a great tool to start with. I mean, you can even learn things like depth of field and such on an iPhone. just go out and make stuff with it. One of the analogies I have is as an adventure racer and an ex-adventure racer, I used to do a lot of mountain biking. I mountain bike on a bike that's like 10 years old, and people are always saying, hey, Eric, get a better bike, get a faster bike, get a lighter bike, get this. And I'm like, the bike is not the problem. The bike is not the limiting factor. I am not, no matter how good my bike is, I'm only so good right now. And when you're starting out doing this kind of work, you're learning. And so you're not an amazing cinematographer right now. You can be, but you're not now. So you don't need a red camera to be an amazing cinematographer and get that far. Cinematography has nothing to do with the equipment in the first 80% of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Then go get a red.
To touch on a few technical things so we can kind of get some technical stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
There's always a focus on the camera. Everyone forgets about the sound. Sound is king.
Sound is better than film.
You can, we just were listening to a guy yesterday who's we can't actually say too much about the project, but if you've seen our Instagram, if you've seen our Instagram, you get a bit of an idea of what we were doing. But this guy's sound guru. He can tell the budget of a film based on the sound. And we couldn't agree with him more. You can actually use that to your benefit as an independent filmmaker or a low-budget filmmaker. If you have good sound, you can get away with lower quality vision. Now, that doesn't mean you then shoot crappily. It just means that if you prioritize the sound and you make sure you got good sound, and let's say you missed a shot or it wasn't too great or it's the only shot you got because you're a documentary filmmaker, don't worry, because the sound, and that includes music, will carry that.
And above sound, although you need to hear, above sound and camera work is a story. If you haven't shot a great clip of something that's compelling, then it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I'm sick of seeing music videos on YouTube that are basically just montages of, you know, like, no offense, but UTMB put out a video, it might have been through one of the partnered brands, and it was like epic cinematography, these amazing runners that were running one of the longest, hardest ultra marathons, and it was just music and people running. And I was like, tell a story, talk to us, put voiceover, this is why you're listening to us right now. There's not great vision going on, but it's because we're talking to you and we're telling you a story.
And you can tell a story through your imagery, just make sure you're telling that story. And then try and get some voice after that, and work voice in, and then work good music in, and then
I had my first editor that I worked under. He would start his edit, if you can imagine, if you know editing software, it's just tracks, and you got your vision and your sound. He would start with just the music. There'd be no, voice. There'd be no vision. He wanted to get that music perfect, and then that would almost tell him, oh, the music's telling me I now need this wide, epic helicopter shot, or I need to go in tight on this person's face. So that depends a little bit on how you edit, but it gives you an idea of how important sound is. Oh, look, aren't you kind? You have water for me.
You're welcome.
But I don't get whiskey.
Well, you can have some. Would you like some?
I should probably...
I thought you'd want water after your ass-kicking class.
You should probably hydrate. They made me do a lot of punches.
Viv just got back from Krav Maga class for the bunch of you that have joined, where she's training how to maintain personal space.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen what we do. We go into some crazy locations, and over the years, some of them have been recorded, some of them haven't, but Eric and I, and even myself, have come very, very close to scenarios which, if they repeated or they could have just gone wrong very easily. And I don't know, Eric may not always be around, so I gotta take responsibility.
I'm always around. I'm omnipresent. I'm so much around, people ask me not to be around.
Just to cap off all the technical stuff, to get that out of the way, there was a question about editing. So if those of you who are interested in getting into filmmaking, what's the best editing software to start on? It's a tricky one because I
think it's an easy answer because it's a monthly
Well, yeah, I think it is. The simple answer is Premiere Pro. With Adobe, it's a monthly subscription. I think they even give you a month free trial, so if you're still not even sure...
I think it's like $25?
Yeah. Check it out. There's various different options, but you only pay as you kind of use it, and you've even got a free trial. In terms of there are different types of editing software, like people love Final Cut 10, I think it is, and people like Avid, and people like Premiere. They're kind of the three boxes of editing software. Premiere sits in that very typical, like, lines of, stacked lines of footage. Apple Final Cut 10 uses nodes a lot, and, like, has kind of, you can imagine, like, spiderweb string outs. Avid, I don't know how on earth to use Avid. For me, that's like an alien software, but some people love it. So there are three different types. If you are brand new, once you start on one of those types, you will find it harder to slide between them. Unless you're kind of a tech geek, but you'll still realize when you open up one of those, you'll have to...
You notice who the editor is here. I mean, I edit, but I'm not the editor.
Well, yeah, so you will, as you speak to other editors...
A lot of good information from Viv about editing. So if you have any questions about editing...
I can drill into this more, but that's the main three things there are. I can talk about editing for a lot longer, the other reason we like Premiere is because it's got a lot of associated softwares like Photoshop and After Effects and Bridge, which all bring other, like if you do graphics, you can bring it straight into your edit suite a lot easier. But it is a bit of a personal opinion. You could speak to other editors and they may have other ideas.
Yeah, I think I would vote Adobe Premiere purely because you can turn it off 1 month and turn it back on and use it as you need. And After Effects as well. Yeah,
I think iMovie, if you're curious if you have that, because I think that comes free, that falls into the Final Cut Pro 10 bin. You know, it's kind of a nodular system. You'd think this is not a touchscreen.
Oh, I'm trying to do a touchscreen here.
We have some questions.
And, scroll down here. We got a new subscriber there. Alvaro, thank you for subscribing. We appreciate it. If any of you are just sitting here taking a look at what we're doing, we appreciate the subscription to what we're about. And basically, we're a film crew, extended international crew. And you can watch our behind the scenes, The Crew, on this web channel. But we also do a lot of live broadcasts as we're doing now because we like talking and we have the gift of gab. And our fans are pretty awesome to chat with. And how else would you want to spend a Friday night? Bourbon and you guys.
On the edit thing, I'll just finish it up. Santiago, who's inspired this question thing here, said he's been using Hit Film Express. Just to top it off, there's so many editing programs out there. At the end of the day, use the one that you're good at and that you're comfortable with and that you start with. Because when a film goes out onto the screen or the internet, we're not going to know what you used to edit it with. But we will know if you are a bad or a good editor. So just get good at your program.
And keep in mind, we were all bad editors when we started. I started out making music video montages of shots of what I thought were cool. You should see my family holiday videos. So, you know, when we say you're either good or bad, the bad editor just hasn't acquired the skills and hasn't met the people who are going to influence them. So just keep editing. I think the difference between a good editor and a bad editor is somebody who's done it a lot. And somebody who's filmed. A good editor has gone out and grabbed the camera and figured out what the editor wants.
That's how I actually got into filming, because I was editing other people's content. And I realized that there are certain things that I was like, you should do as a filmmaker, as a cinematographer. They weren't doing. Anyway, that's another topic. For some people, this is making no sense. We've got one comment here from Silky. She says, this is all very interesting, but it's all Greek. So why don't we take a quick break and talk about, answer a non-film question.
Non-film question.
So there is one here. Our new subscriber, here we go. Me and my brother are interested in the whole traveling thing, but can you give us some tips?
To travel, why don't you give us a little more information? You're interested in the traveling thing. You're interested in being traveling for film, or to travel, or travel low budget, travel for work. I'm going to try and figure out what you're talking about, and I'd say if you're interested in how to travel versus like the experiences of us traveling, if you want to travel, you know, that's pretty simple to do and rather low cost right now. It requires time. Time is not cheap though. Everybody has a job and you can't get time. Getting the money to do it is another thing. That's relatively easy. If you want to travel and do film, then you have to show value in what you do. If you want someone else to pay you to do something, then they need value. And that's what I do a lot. I spend most of my time cooking up with Vivian some way to show that what we do has value to somebody else. And that's the most important thing.
Is this the difference between traveling for money versus just traveling for fun?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the question was at, so I was going traveling for getting paid to travel. But traveling for fun?
Man, get off the map.
Do it, I guess is the question.
Yeah.
Do it. And go where you wouldn't think you want to go. Go somewhere different.
Do something. I mean, it really does depend where you sit. I mean, for me, I think if you've gone nowhere, there's some really easy stuff to start with. Like, you should definitely check out some of the great big cities around the world, you know, stuff like New York, Paris, London, Madrid. You know, they've got such history. Beijing, Shanghai. You know, so you can do a lot in one city, and you'll just kind of get this sense of history and people. And
but you know what else though, and we did this once with my family, and I do it quite a bit. We go downtown, right where we live in Seattle, and we just walk into all the. Remember when we were taking pictures of the different buildings and walking into buildings and down alleys, and we traveled in our own city, and it was pretty cool. So you can really start right where you're at.
Yeah.
Just take a left when normally you take a right.
And then, I think if you want to kind of step it up from there, I'm a big fan of kind of taking out the map and just putting your finger on it and figuring it, like, let's go there. And I did that in Paris once with a friend of ours. When I was living there, we were like, let's go check out Le Havre. No one ever goes to Le Havre. As we discovered, there was no one on the train going there. But it ended up being such a fun weekend because it was just us in this, like, industrial fishing town on the coast of France. But you ended up having such a ton of fun, and you would never have thought to go there because it's in none of the guidebooks. So pick out the map, find something, and then throw the map away and figure it out.
I think that's great advice. I did that in Venice. Venice is a small island, and I threw the map out, and I said, I'm just going to wander. And within an hour of wandering, I run into a nun in full habit playing soccer with a couple kids in an alleyway, and I sat and watched it for like a half hour. Amazing experience to watch, something you never see anywhere. And I saw this because I just started walking in a circle, I think.
For some reason, I lost connection to you guys. But that's just a white screen, which is basically what it is. So I can't read your latest questions. So why don't we go back to talking about film? Sorry guys, we obviously are draining the internet here, or whatever's going on. So why don't we go back? We've talked about some technical stuff. We got that out of the way. Network and collaboration. Free work and getting started in work and what work you should take. Because I know for a fact, you know, when I started, there was like this dream of like making epic, you know, Hollywood films, and like, how do you get there when you're down
and
here?
Everybody wants to get paid. I mean, in the end, this is the reality of life. In order to do something, you need to get paid, because we have all these things like mortgages and apartment rent and groceries, and so you can't just go gallivanting around the world doing stuff for free forever unless you're on a trust fund. And if you are, just message me and let's talk about doing something together. But you have, it's a balance. It's really a balance when you start, because you can't ask to be paid a gob of cash.
But you must value your work, and I think one of the things that does happen in creative industries, and it's not just specific to the film industry, is that people do the typical, hey, work for me, I'll give you exposure. And exposure's not going to help you for very long. It's kind of nice, and if you do want to get exposure, you got to make sure it's good exposure. I mean, if it's like the local hair salon saying, oh, I'll give you exposure, not so good. If it's a big magazine, like if you're into skateboarding, let's say, and there's a big skateboarding magazine is going to like put your video on the front page of their website, you know, that's very different.
You know, let's look at it this way, that if somebody in your first couple of jobs promises exposure, they probably don't have the exposure to give you if they're asking you to work for free. So just make sure you get something else.
Yeah, it's if you're not getting money in exchange for it, make sure you're getting something of value to you.
I will be back in a second.
There's a power cord there.
Yeah, I'm doing this up right.
Yeah, so make sure you are getting something back in exchange. Oh man, my live just went live on my computer. We got internet back. So yeah, as I was saying, if you're not getting money, get something. Like make sure the exposure's worth, or maybe you're getting good contacts or a good network in exchange, or a good experience. There are some jobs I've taken. Like it was a live broadcast. I'd never done live broadcast before. Pay wasn't great, but I kind of evaluated in that now I'm getting some experience in live sports broadcasting. You know, I've done that particularly in my early days where, you know, I'm like, yeah, this is an awesome project. I really want to have this on my resume. But you have to evaluate that, and especially as time goes on, don't be afraid to put the foot down and say, no, I'm worth this and I need to get this, and you will lose some jobs doing that.
Yeah, you got to be willing to walk away from some things. I mean, that's just going to be the nature of the business. We've all, both of us have walked away from things that are just, oh man, you really think you should have done it, but it was just not there for you. You know, and if you get that feeling that this is not a good idea, don't do it. On that note, I suggest you do everything you possibly can, everywhere, with everybody, because you never know who you're going to meet and where it's going to lead.
Yeah.
But always keep, if those hairs come up on the back of your neck and you're like, this is something I shouldn't do, don't do it. But I think, coming back to what we were doing earlier, talking about networking. Excuse me.
Are you,
Yeah, tell them what I'm doing.
Oh, he's still fixing the power. We're super busy, guys. I mean, we love going live with you guys, but we're kind of like trying to fit in all sorts of things. Like going off doing some craft class. Just before that, I was editing. Eric was editing, and now didn't realize his phone wasn't charged. So we're always running 100 miles an hour. So anyway, Eric's just fixing some power so we can keep talking to you guys. Santiago asked, how did you manage your budget starting up? Was it big or limited? Limited. We'll be honest with you. Oh, in terms of me as an individual, limited, and then when we joined as a company, it was also limited. So, you know, that's the thing. You can kind of start making some headway as an individual, and then you join as a... Oh, still there?
Yeah.
Cool.
We're still there?
Just plugging power in. We're still there. So, yeah, definitely starting up, you know, as a company, kind of regrouping together. We were individuals for a long time, and we had to rebrand ourselves. So, when we came together in a company, and yeah, the budgets were limited, and rightly so. I mean, although we had careers individually, the company didn't have a career. So we needed to take some time to develop that, and yeah, we took some jobs.
Patience.
Yeah. Patience.
I mean, we're still in the patience mode. I mean, you don't see us standing up there getting an Oscar right now. That's what we would like to be doing. But patience. This is anything. If it's film, you know, if it's making pavers or making software, the whole idea is patience, and everything. Of all the people I've talked to and met, you know, everything you do that's successful is relentless, and typically it's 5 to 10 years at which you might define as success. I mean...
Yeah, we've been a company now for 2 years, but prior to that, as you know, we've both had careers that extend back before that. You know, another 5 years for me and longer for you.
But really, 2 years at this.
But to actually directly answer the question, how do you work with a limited budget? It comes back to what we said before. We made sure that there was some value in there for us. So even if we weren't getting a huge paycheck, we chose carefully the projects we did. And we made sure that we were going to interesting places, that we were maximizing the content. When we did our job in India, again, you can go to the playlist for that, we were paid to do one job over there, which is to create a promo video for the Ladakh Marathon, which is the world's highest marathon. We ended up creating a whole pile of crew episodes, which have now started to monetize and introduced us to you guys. We created... a film that we then entered into the London Drone Film Festival, which won. We created another promotional video for another company. So out of one project, we created an additional 3 pieces of content. And that's how we created value. So then we ended up earning more money off these other little things that we did, even though initially we were just paid to do one thing. Hope that makes some sense. So it's about finding the value. So even if someone's saying, here's $100 to do something, you say, well, how else can this make sense to me? How is there more than $100 worth of value? So because we've just reconnected to the internet, I'm just getting my head around some questions. There's a question about merchandise. Will we create merchandise? We have talked about that, and eventually we'll get around to doing that.
Yeah, we'd like to do a few things as far as merchandising. We really like our logo. Imagine that. But a lot of people seem to like it. We were thinking about doing a hat. One of the things we do, coming back again to networking with other people and really creating solidarity around what we do, is we hand out the patch to people that have, chewed the same ground with us. And this, we try to create, again, the crew globally. There's our patch sits in India and China and Belize and Africa, and around the world people have our patch, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, but now since the crew YouTube channel has been growing and you guys have been awesome and fantastic in supporting that, it does make it more sense for us to kind of look into doing some merchandise.
Does that make sense?
Eric's putting a Facebook post
about what we're doing right now, talking to you guys.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, cool.
So, Hodgepodge has a question. How do you manage planning and run and gun projects? Is it a mix? Always planned?
Oh, we have a big joke about plans.
You make the plan and then you throw it out the window on day one.
Well, no, you use half of it on day one and throw it out the window at the end of day one.
Yeah, basically it never goes to plan. But that doesn't mean you don't have a plan.
Yeah, we really do spend a lot of time planning what we're doing, and we're not talking about planning the shoot like you would in a Hollywood film where you're planning the camera's going to do this move and the talent's going to cue up here and the lighting's going to be here. We plan about like where are we going to eat so people don't get dysentery, and where are we going to sleep so people don't get some kind of parasite. And
what's going to happen to the story if the weather changes and we can't get to the top of the mountain, which has happened to us.
Yeah, how are we not going to lose money because this thing goes completely wrong?
Yeah, I always have to make the TV show or the video that we're being hired to make. We have to make a TV show. We have to deliver it. So, you're 6,000 meters above sea level on this mountain in the middle of Tibet, and the wind comes in with gale force winds, and you can't get to the summit. So I still have to deliver a TV show. So what you end up doing is, yes, the original plan's been thrown out the window because we can't get to the summit anymore, but we've got in the back of our head a pile of plans as to how to still create a story when your crux of your story is gone. A lot of that gets done quickly because we've been doing this for so long. So when wind comes in, we kind of know what options there are. So we don't really write it down. We just know how to react that way. Some of the bigger things we'll write down and plan.
We never give up. We never ever give up. There's always an option. There's always a solution. There's always a way to do what we need to do to make the film, to make the television show. There's never not an option. You just have to really work hard at it quickly and develop it. And it's always successful. It always, 100% of the time, is successful if you take that approach. We never walk away. We never voluntarily walk away.
Let the situation say no, not you.
Yeah.
Let them say no. But I didn't even let them say no sometimes.
Let them say no 5 times.
So we've got some great questions coming in. This was kind of
cool.
the whole point of this, was for us to start with the topic and then answer your questions. So, going in order, Celtic Shadow asked, have you had any difficulties with the TSA transporting camera gear on flights, either with domestic or overseas?
Not TSA, but, well, have we with TSA? Not really. A lot of other countries.
Yeah, traveling with camera gear is pretty much akin to traveling with a pile of guns.
Or what they think are guns and spy equipment. They think we have spy equipment.
The Germans, I was traveling through well, it'd be the Swiss Germans, but I was traveling through Bern in Switzerland. And everything came out. Everything was meticulously looked through. Every hard drive was scanned. Every lens was looked at. Caps taken off. And you just stood there for hours. Well, it wasn't hours. It felt like hours. It was probably like 25 minutes and you're holding everybody up. So China is crazy. Yeah. Crazy, but they're not consistent.
Yeah, China is very inconsistent. India is pretty detailed. I mean, every country is pretty detailed. Some of them aren't. South Africa is not detailed, but you have a lot of people getting into your luggage. They've got a bunch of stuff stolen. I don't want to put a bad cast on South Africa. You get through there fine. But
I mean, stuff gets stolen in all sorts of countries. Yeah, we're just talking from our
experience. There just happens to be a little bit higher level in some areas. I think... I mean, I always have a strategy when I go through these things. I know I've got a lot of stuff that they don't like to see come through. I don't bring anything illegal through except for the few big knives and machetes.
So that you had those taken off you. At the end of the day, you're at their whim. They've taken knives. They've taken.
But I try to talk to them as they're going through my stuff. I talk to them. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Blah blah blah. How's the mom?
Like we've had ice screws. Like when we've gone and done mountain climbing stuff. I think JD had a entire bag of ice screws, which look like weapons when you put them through a scanner. And so the difference, if you tell them, hey, there's a bag of ice screws in there, they'll be less freaked out than if you scan your bag and they find the ice screws themselves. Then it's on like high alert before, because I mean, in the case of China, they didn't know what ice screws were. And it actually relates to one of the next questions. Translating ice screws into Mandarin when you don't speak Mandarin is really difficult, because basically you're doing the action of a knife.
Think about it. You're trying to describe that you're screwing a sharp metal object into a slab of ice on the side of a mountain. Try to describe that.
Yeah, it looks like you're stabbing someone. So
yeah, and when you try to describe it in broken English, you're like, I put this into ice, and it's, why the hell
why would you do that?
I do it on a mountain for safety. That makes no sense to anyone.
So this comes around to a good question. Oh, just topping that one off. When we do travel with very big expensive stuff, we get a travel carnet. So you can Google that and figure out what that is. How many languages do you speak? This is from Left Coast Terry. And how do you overcome language obstacles?
Well, Vivian is very fluent in French, which has come in pretty handy.
It has, actually. Thank you, Madame Jacou, for putting up with me in high school.
I used to speak Japanese a long time ago. Serves no purpose now because it's crap. I have a tough time with English. English is difficult for me.
We are currently, because we do a lot of work in China as of recently, we are currently trying to learn Mandarin.
Yeah, learning Mandarin.
But
that's super hard.
But we make pretty bad mistakes sometimes.
We shouldn't share those because they're always sexual mistakes when we have a joke.
You can't. I have a theory, actually. No matter what language you're learning, if you're going to make a mistake, it's going to be a sexual one. There's no way you're going to make some sort of mistake and say, oh, hey, there's a blue banana. It'll be really bad, whatever your mistake is. So we've had a few of those. We do work with translators a lot. That's one of the things that we require a lot of when we go into these places. We make sure that there's a translator with us.
I don't have to use language a lot to get things done. People just seem to know what I need when I stare at them.
He's got crazy eyes. That's his Chinese name, by the way.
Yeah, my Chinese name. Does anybody know my Chinese name? Don't tell them. See if anybody knows. I don't think anybody should know. Do they know?
Actually, I was cutting the episode today. So if you stay tuned, one of the episodes in maybe 2 weeks' time,
you'll find my Chinese name.
You'll find out what his Chinese name is.
So let's not tell them what my Chinese name is. I was named in China.
So another question. What kind of wine is in Eric's glass? We did answer that earlier.
Oh.
Short answer is?
Short answer is a good friend of mine from Kentucky who we just met up with on a film project gave me Blanton's Kentucky single barrel bourbon whiskey. So I thought I would have that since he liked on Facebook that we were going to be on YouTube today, and I thought I'd have a piece of that. It's on Friday.
Do you know how to do a short answer?
And I'm done with that answer.
mean, it's a great answer. It's not a short one.
There's a great story behind this, which
There is, which we have
apparently
told.
cannot tell
But
you
we
again.
have told you.
Again.
Well, I feel bad for people that have heard that. Okay, Santiago says, you mentioned earlier that you got paid to go to India for a job and you took advantage of this and recorded a few episodes as well. How did you associate with the company and other companies in general?
Well, I like to hesitate by saying we took advantage of it. I would like to say that capitalized on it. We didn't take. We try to be very good with people.
We are, but again, this comes back to maintaining relationships. We didn't do anything covertly. We told people what we were doing. It's pretty obvious when we're filming the crew because we're walking around with our cameras and we're like, "Hey, this is what we're doing today." So we let people know that we filmed the crew. We let them know because sometimes, in the case of Belize, we couldn't release specific shots from the final production, which is still being edited. So you really got just the behind the scenes. Other projects, you know, it kind of depends on the relationship as to what our client allows us to put into the crew. And then again, like with the film that we made, you know, that we went and put into a film festival and we won it, we were open with them. And we said, this is the film. We made sure that they saw it before we submitted it and released it.
People are willing to work with you if they understand that you're doing something, one, again, as we said earlier in this broadcast, to give them value, and you're doing something that's going to be creative and really give some sort of information about the region or the people, and you communicate with them. And
I mean, we have, like, for example, like, we've also written a lot of articles about the places we've gone to, which is another way that we capitalize on the places we've gone.
Yeah, if you haven't read any of the articles, go to our website, oneeyeopen.tv. Go to oneeyeopen.tv. There's several articles we've written.
It's like a little article tab. And, but a classic example of that is we wrote something in one of the articles and our client wasn't happy with it because of security reasons to do with the Indian government and military. And so they just politely asked us to remove it, and we did. So
I believe it was a general who called you, or emailed you.
Yeah.
Viv was emailed by a general who said, don't write
in
that.
India. Please don't publish that.
Yeah, which it wasn't something bad about them. It was something...
security related.
Strategic they didn't want us to write about, so we didn't.
We go to some amazing places and we see some stuff that not everyone can see, but that's kind of...
You have to be respectful and careful.
Yeah. So a couple of questions here I'm going to smash together. Have either of you been to Iceland before? If not, are you planning on? And I'm going to tie that in with Alvaro's question, what's the most incredible place you have visited?
I'll let you go off on Iceland.
I really want to go to Iceland. Really badly. I think, like, it started way back when I was watching an early Warren Miller film. I must have been like 10 or something, and they take this sailboat and they sail into one of the big fjords up there, and that's epic. And then they get off the boat and then they skin up to the top of the mountain and ski back down. And ever since then I've been like, I must get myself to Iceland. So
I think I'd love to go to Iceland. I think it seems like an amazing place. It's somewhere I haven't been, so certainly it's part of what I want to do. I think right now I really, really have a need to go back to India, to southern India. We're working on a project down in southern India right now, and come hell or high water, we're going to make that project happen. We've been working on getting to this area in southern India for 2-3 years now.
Yeah, we have a lot of irons in the fire all the time, and so the real behind the scenes of what we do is this kind of constant work. When we often say that we're crazy busy, it's because we've got a project here and a project here and there, and this requires talking to this person in this time zone. And like, we were up late at night at 10 o'clock at night, 10 p.m. talking to Beijing. So it's just this constant, like, what's happening. And again, it comes back to what I said before. It's about maintaining those relationships. So we do put an awful lot of time into talking to people, emailing people, nursing those relationships. How can we make this work? Are the funds ready yet? Are the people ready? Is a lot of security, military things happen and we can't get into places suddenly.
I think one of the things that I like to emphasize, a lot of people ask us about the travel, about the cameras, about production. These are all kind of the either technologically fun or sexy parts of what we do. nobody really, a few people ask us how we make money. That's kind of how do you make a living. But nobody asks about the business side of things. And I would say what we do is probably 80% business. And you have to operate a business. You have to understand how to read and review contracts. You have to understand how to negotiate. You have to understand how to talk with people from embassies and people from militaries and people with other businesses who want to work with you, but they want value in what they're doing. I would say if you're going to learn anything, learn how to be diligent about doing camera work and telling stories, and learn how to do business, because you're not going to do anything if you don't know how to conduct yourself with contracts, protect yourself, and how to, this network you build, how to maximize that network.
Yeah, and I think this comes back to this, I think, is the final answer to Santiago's big question, how do I kind of get involved in partnering? Know your strengths. If you are a creative person, if you're an editor, if you're a filmmaker, you're a business person, even if you have cross skills, know where the strength in that lies. So even if you can read contracts, Eric's a better contract reader than me. So partner with someone that fills those gaps, and partner wisely. Just if you are a film nut and you're a time-lapse photography nut, and then you meet another time-lapse photography nut, you two will get along so well. But at the end of the day, that's probably not the best partner for you, because you'll just bang on about time-lapse photography forever, and no one will actually know how to manage your funds or move your business into something different or innovative. So interact with those people for sure, bring them on board, but in terms of business-wise, make sure that you are balancing out and matching out, balancing out skills.
Yeah, I think run a business. Run a business that happens to tell stories and be creative and use cool technology to capture images in light.
If you can't run a business, find someone who can. I mean, we work with a lot of people who utilize their family, and there's no problem with that. If you've got a dad or a mom or a cousin who's very good at tax law and contract law, use them. Don't be afraid not to get them involved in what you're doing, because that then allows you to do your creative stuff really well.
And be willing to evolve. That's one of the things I've been learning lately. Is evolving in our work. As you see in the crew episodes, I always thrive on being the guy at the top of the mountain with the camera, doing the thing, getting the shot. Oh, Eric's coming down from the mountains. He's epic. He's amazing. And I've had to evolve now, and I got to let someone else do that, because we're doing bigger things now, and I do less and less of that. I do a lot more pushing shit uphill, so that those guys can have those epic moments, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah. I lost my internet again briefly, which means I lost my.
We should probably wrap this up.
We should, and as a result, I was going to take a quick pause.
Oh yes.
Giveaways.
Turn it around so it looks like it has more stuff in it.
So these are just small little bits and pieces that we gather along the way, and we just thought it'd be better off if you guys had fun with them. This little packet's a fun little stuff. It's got a mini fan in it, which is powered from your iPhone or smartphone. We have a mobile phone charger, which is ironic because we should have probably used it today to power our own phone. But these are great. We use these all the time. We actually have a couple of them each. So this is for if you, again, travel tip, if you're on the way, if you're out and about, this will charge your phone mobilely. You don't need to be stuck to a wall. Oh, Gear Aid and Tenacious Tape. You want to tell them what Tenacious Tape does?
I don't know what it is.
Oh, I thought...
Nope.
Maybe I was talking to someone else. It's a repair kit. It's really, really tough tape that you can use to repair like punches in pack rafts.
Oh, okay. No, I wasn't there.
Oh,
Okay.
maybe I was talking to someone else. That's how important you are to me, Eric. I don't know what this is.
Oh, that's a power cord.
Oh, a really handy power cord, so that you don't have to take like a really big long cord. This is just a little one that fits on your keyring. And a bag. So, just little bits and bobs that we threw together.
Yeah, we get given stuff all the time, and we package them all up in a little group. And
so we'd like to give them to you guys, because we figured, you guys go on adventures as well, and you might appreciate bits and pieces, so...
We do keep part of it for ourselves, so we have all these things ourselves as well.
So it is all brand new, and we've popped it in a little bag there for you guys. So basically, just comment below and tell us.
Tell us. It should be something related to the question, right? Like, what do you think? How you got into film, or I don't know what.
Tell us maybe one of the tips that we've talked for like an hour now. Tell us what was like something that you found interesting that was new.
What tip do you think you're gonna apply to your
what resonated with you
adventure film
Yeah.
career?
Yeah, or travel or whatever. So
Yeah. Should we look at the last few? Can you get?
we'll do it. We're just gonna start to wrap up now. So I'm gonna see if I can get back online.
And we're not.
I know Hodgepodge. One of the last questions I did read was what film and TV do you like to watch?
I don't watch a lot of stuff. We were just talking about that the other day. I'm just forcing myself to watch a lot of other stuff. But Viv is an avid watcher of things.
I do like watching stuff. My latest show. Let's go on my latest as opposed to because I love watching stuff. I'm a big Aaron Sorkin fan, which means The West Wing and The Newsroom, and anything he writes is high on my list of stuff that I enjoy. And I've recently really enjoyed The Handmaid's Tale. So there you go.
I like Wes Anderson.
Yep.
He makes
I like
me
that
laugh.
too. I like a lot of stuff.
And I like The Dude.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Oh, sorry. You guys are starting to answer the question for the giveaway. Good. I'll be reading all of that. Well, I lost the internet to my laptop, so I can't read your final questions. I'll go back in and we will all reply to them and make sure that we address all of you guys. So we're sorry if we verbally couldn't answer your question.
We're back in kind of our home base now for a little bit, so I think we can do that. We'll be able to pull this off next Friday.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. Oh, maybe.
Will we?
I might have to do an earlier one next Friday, so this broadcast might be a few hours earlier.
Oh, right. You leave. Right.
Yeah.
So we'll do this next Friday at some point. We might do this next Friday as we send you off to the airport.
Yep. And we'll explain
Leaving
why.
again.
So thank you very much for watching. Thanks for all your questions. We really appreciate it. Have an awesome weekend.
All right. Cheers.